Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back with another Sister Wives season 19 review. I got a new ring light, y'all, and I feel like I just went to the upgrade of upgrades to the point where I'm gonna have to get used to how blinding this light was. But I said, let me invest. Like, let me spend a good little coin on one of these and see if it works better. So don't mind me if you see my eyes going like this. This episode, without fail, every single episode just gets worse and worse for this man. You tell this woman not to be placing blame on you, but you blame her. Then she's telling you she doesn't know this is a fight, and you tell her it's not a fight, it's accountability conversation. Meanwhile, you don't know how to be accountable, so how can you have an accountability conversation? But go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button. Oh, shout out to you guys. I hit the 1,700 mark. Ooh. I was so excited earlier when I saw that. Thank you so much for those of you who have always been here, and for those of you who have joined the fam. It means a lot to me. I am really seeing that goal of 2,000 coming soon. But enough of that. Let's get into why you're here. So it's Christmas time in Flagstaff, and we start at Cody and Robin's house. The feathered people. It's not much going on there. Then we go to Salt Lake. Let's be clear, we don't really care anyway. Then we go to Salt Lake, where we see Aspen, McKelty, Truly, Isabel, Mitch, and Tony, and of course the kids. McKelty says that it doesn't feel like Christmas to her because there's no chaos and she's accustomed to chaos, and that each parent brought something different. So now the dynamic is looking different. I get what she's saying, but it's not the first Christmas that she's experiencing it. There have been several Christmases at this point where she wasn't with them. So them talking about this kind of seems pointless to me. Then we get to head to North Carolina, where we see Janelle, and she and Savannah are there with Maddie and Caleb. She says she wanted to go to Maddie's house because she wanted to be with the grandbabies, and because Maddie and Caleb do a lot of Christmas traditions like going to see lights and things of that nature. She says she agrees that Christmas is different this time, but it's a good thing. We get to Salt Lake. Meri is in Salt Lake. Meri being in Salt Lake kind of confused me because I would think that Meri would want to be with Leon and Audrey, but I don't know what the situation was there. Maybe they were somewhere else. But either way, she's in Salt Lake because she says she wants to be around people who want to be around her. She doesn't want to be in places where she's not wanted. So she's with her friends by the name of Lisa and Amber. Lisa used to babysit Meri, and Meri and Amber have been friends since they were very young. She says this Christmas is different, but it's going to be different from here on out. Now, let's get back to Christine. We spent a lot of time on Christine and David, and there are parts of it that I could do without. Y'all know I'm always going to be honest up here. There are parts that, in my opinion, I don't need to see, especially because we saw this already kind of play out. I'm glad that they're telling us her love story, but I wish that they would have held off a little bit on the wedding if they were going to just come back and show us some of the same things and have some of the same discussions. But we find out from Aspen that her mom made her aware that she's been on a couple of dates, which is different for Aspen to hear because her mother has never dated guys before, but she's excited for her. Christine lets us know that she's been going out on dates for like the past 6 months. She tells us about some of them and how when she got to the polygamy aspect of things, that some of the men lost interest because they didn't want to be a part of that. Understandable. There's a lot to unpack there. We then hear from Meri that she's almost 52 and the thought of dating is weird to her. Wasn't weird when you were online and you had Sam, but now it's weird. Okay, I can't say anything. I met my man off of online dating because I wasn't going to meet him at work. I don't want to date any of the guys at church. So what else did I have? The grocery store? Anyways, so she's been in a plural family for years, and she says that they may think because she's been in a plural family for years that that's what she's interested in, because she's done it for so long. And when she said that, I was like, okay, Meri, does this mean that you're no longer interested in being in a plural family because you felt the need to be released from the church? So that makes me feel like this is something that you still believe in. That makes me still feel like this is a part of your faith. But maybe I'm wrong. You all let me know your thoughts down below. So we get to Janelle, who says she wants no part of dating apps. If it does happen for her, because she's not looking, she wants it to be natural. We then hear about the kids again and how they all gather basically to talk about David. In this conversation, one of the things that I always get irritated with is how much both Mykelti and Tony tend to guide the conversation sometimes, to the point where they make things awkward and uncomfortable because they wanted to bring it up. We know that you're filming a scene, but the way that they did it was so cringe to me. I'd rather have Aspen do it because Aspen seems more level-headed and she doesn't seem like she's trying to get camera time as much as her sister does. So Christine lets us know that she has a man, that he's everything that she's been looking for. On their second date, she told him about polygamy. He was aware of it because he has sisters, not a sister, but sisters who are both in plural marriages. She says that, she really likes him. So then she goes around and asks the kids their impression of him. Mykelti said, look, I let him hold my babies. That says a lot. Tony says he was pretty good. I love the fact that he, survived, that after his wife passed, that he had 8 kids, that he made sure that he took care of. That is an admirable quality. It's not easy. I couldn't imagine being a widow with my youngest child being 6 and having to, do that on my own with so many kids, but he did it. I'm not going to take that away. Christine, Peyton, Mykelti, Isabel, Tony, Aspen, Mitch, and are all there at one point. They come in at various times, because there's one point where Isabel isn't there, and neither is Truly, because she went to go get Truly from school, and then she comes back. So there's a lot going on here. So, Christine says that I'm 50 at this point and I know what I'm looking for. I dated 8 guys. Mykelti's like, Truly, how do you feel about the situation? And Truly said, David is funny and she gets along with him. You all may disagree with me on this. I understand that Christine is 50, but in my opinion, when you've known a man for less than a month, they should not be around your children, especially your younger children. I get it. It is what it is. We can agree to disagree, just keep it polite. But I don't like how quickly she kind of forced David upon Truly. If you want to move fast, and that's fine, but make sure that this guy is truly a solid guy before you do that. Just my opinion. Mitch says that he likes him. Once Mitch said it, I said, okay, maybe I need to take that back. Because Mitch is someone whose opinion that I do listen to and I do value, because he's very observant. People like that who tend to be quiet, they're quiet for a reason. They're paying attention, they're watching, they're figuring things out. So for Mitch, and if Caleb likes him, and if Hunter and the other guys like him, then I'm okay with it. Tony, being the troublemaker that he is, says that David reminds him of Cody. Tony's the type of person who says things just to get a reaction. I could never be okay with Tony because he would irritate the mess out of me. The moment he said it, I was instantly annoyed, because I'm like, okay, that's not a good thing, especially given the situation, for you to say that this man reminds you of Cody. But he basically said it's because of his lingo, that he's a boomer. A lot of my favorite people are older than me, so boomer or not, I wouldn't care. I'll be honest with you. I rather hang out with some of my older friends. Like one of my coworkers, she's in her 70s, and I went to lunch with her the other day and we had an awesome time. I love her. Matter of fact, she's not even my coworker anymore because she retired a couple months ago. But I promised that I would keep in contact with her, and being with her and talking to her is just so refreshing. So whatever Tony's talking about, I'm not trying to hear that. Christine didn't realize it, but because her and Janelle were like, we're not boomers, he's not a boomer, da-da-da boomer. Turns out that David is a boomer. Production points it out because he's 8 years older than Christine. Christine says, all of that aside, she knows that this is all going to be an adjustment for her kids and that they're going to think that she's moving too fast. I don't know why, but production asked Cody about the situation. We don't care what Cody thinks because it doesn't matter. Even if he didn't like it, he would have said it's okay. But long story short, he said Christine can do whatever she wants. Isabel, we find out, is having a harder time because of how fast it is. She says she's happy, but it's an adjustment for her because she's accustomed to seeing her mother with the bald eagle. Peyton and Isabel are feeling the same exact way about the PDA. Janelle lets us know that her and the bald eagle were always very affectionate, that she just didn't like having PDA in front of everybody. I guess that's why whenever they kissed on camera, it looked very awkward, because you're telling me you were always really affectionate, but then Cody would say, like, we always have these awkward kisses. So what did your affection look like? I wonder. Meri's like, it's okay to have a little bit of PDA, but there's a limit to it. No one wants to see your PDA. Be respectful and go into a room. And when she said it, I started laughing because that statement came from the same person who in the book were told when Janelle got married to Cody, y'all would be watching a movie or something on TV and she would be on one side, you and Cody would be on the other, and y'all would be snuggled all up, touching each other with her sitting right there, being overly affectionate. So I guess it changes up when it matters. Cody says, he didn't like doing PDA before because he had all those wives, but he loves doing PDA now. But Robin is very shy, I said he gonna let us know that he likes to touch Robin. They're talking about how weird it was the other day because David was over there and Christine was extremely affectionate with David. McKelty's like, no, not McKelty. Aspen says, my mom always wanted this, but she didn't really get it. So now that she's with David, she can have all the physical affection she wants. We find out that his kids are on board with it. Isabel says she's about to go to work, and before she leaves, I guess because she wants to make sure her mom's okay, she says, even though it's going fast, I'm okay with it now. Peyton then looks at his mom and says, Mom, us telling you that it's going fast doesn't mean that it's not okay. It's just us being observant. We aren't telling you to stop or to slow down. Christine is like, good, because I wasn't going to stop. I was like, well, dang. We then find out after a week of dating, both David and Christine said that I love you. He, however, said it first. Peyton says he doesn't have any judgments regarding David yet. He wants to wait until he determines how he feels about it. But he's happy that his mother is happy. She met his family. There's a lot of commotion, she says, when she met his family because it's so many of them. It was a lot of family. They sat down. He pulled her in next to her. His heart was beating really fast. So was hers. She put her hands on his chest. They cuddled. She said it was crazy because she felt this calm in his arms despite everything that was going on around him at them. And she was able to breathe. Y'all, I don't know what's going on, but this little thing looked like it's flashing. Maybe I spoke too soon about this ring. She said it was crazy, but it felt like, it was breathing for her. In that moment, their souls became one and her heartbeat synced up. That's it. I'm with the wrong man, y'all. I'm playing, but I'm saying there's a lot going on here in this little bit of time. And I'm like, okay, our heartbeats ain't sinking and I breathe sometimes, but sometimes I'm like, get off me. But no, seriously, think about that. To some people, that may not be a big deal, but to her, it's a huge deal because this isn't anything that she ever got to experience before. In this moment, she's in his arms and she just gets to be. It means everything to her because it's not something that she was accustomed to. She said in that moment, she realized that she would do that for the rest of her life. So we go back to North Carolina. Janelle is talking with Maddie and Caleb about purchasing property. They aren't farmers, but they're interested in getting land where they can do some things. She talks about the property in Montana and how nice it is. The plan for Coyote Pass is to split it 4 ways. I still do not think that the bald eagle should have his own portion of it, but that's not on me, that's on them. She says he doesn't have his part to pay off the property, but Janelle, who the bird tried to sit here and tell us what did she say? The reason why she was able to have the things that she had at her house and the things in her backyard is because she's more financially responsible than Janelle. So you're supposedly more financially responsible than her, but yet Janelle has her portion to pay off the land, but you and your man don't. So whoop, whoop, whoop. Come again about how financially responsible you are, little birdie. I think you're not. Janelle's like, I have my money. I got my portion. She tells Caleb and Madison that she told Cody that she wants them to buy her out. It piqued his interest, but she's like, he moves so slowly, there's no telling how long it's going to take. I'm going to have to consult a lawyer. She doesn't know what's going to happen at this point because Meri, Robin, Cody, and her have to pay it off. She can't just do it by herself. She's like, my retirement and my savings are tied into this property. Or no, she said those properties. I don't think she's just talking about Coyote Pass, though. I think she's talking about the bird's house too. So she suggested to Cody that he get a loan to basically finance and buy her out. Because she wants out. She wants to settle. She wants to have something of her own. She said after Vegas, she saw that she couldn't wait on him. Back to Christine. Christine lets us know that when she was doing therapy with Nancy, that Nancy told her to make a list of qualities that she's looking for in a husband. So she said she wanted a good communicator. She wanted someone who was going to be present in her life, someone who wanted to be around her children, someone who was attracted to her. After she made the list, she realized that Cody wasn't anything on the list, right? He heard the list and he even knew, this thing is getting on my nerves. He even knew that he was not anything on that list. I want to know what was said by Nancy after that. Once she did her homework assignment, and she realized that he wasn't anything on that list, what was said after she realized that? Yo, I'm going to have to get a new ring light again. I'm going to have to return this because it keeps blinking, 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 blinking. It's driving me nuts. It's like 1, 2, 3. So I know I'm off topic. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 different sections of a whole bunch of lights. And it's one light on this side is doing this. And it's driving me nuts. And I know that can bother some people. So hopefully it's not bothering you all. If it is, just look away from the TV and listen to me talk. I'm going to try to figure it out. But I want to know what Nancy said after that. So at this point, Christine has been dating David for a month. And the family is very important to him. He has all of these things that are on her box checked off. She talks about how he owns his own business and how he's a great communicator. And he has, what? I said that communicator thing. He's just good to her. So we meet him and Christine. Looks like she wants to devour him when she opens the door. She's like, hey, baby. So now they're in confessionals together. She's like, this is him. He's like, hi, my wife passed almost 12 years ago. I have 8 kids. I started doing the dating thing before, but I gave up after 8 years. Then I 3 years later, I started to try it again, and here we are. Heard about how they had the first date and the second date, and by the third date, she was tired of waiting on him to make a move, so she asked for a kiss, which turned into a makeout session. David says she was very aggressive for some affection. That's because she didn't get it from her husband. And because she didn't get it from her husband, she wanted to make sure that she would get it from her next person. He tells her how special she is, how he loves her and appreciates her for who she is. She's his unicorn. He loves her crazy. He loves how she is with her kids. She's just a great person, that she's his soulmate. And you know, she's like, now that I've been with David, I understand this soulmate concept. Now I get why the bald eagle was always at the bird's house, because he couldn't get enough of her. He wanted to be over there all the time because that was his soulmate. She says that it would be a problem, though, she feels like in polygamous marriages, for a husband to have a soulmate, that it could create a problem, which is true, because look what happened with them. David calls her too good to be true because of how well they click, because of how they feel. They're both very excited. This is the complete opposite of what we see next. The bald eagle goes over to Meri's house because even though they're officially divorced, he wants to clear some things up. I guess this is just what he does because he did the same exact thing with Christine, which means at some point he's going to lose control and he's going to say something stupid, which he does. He tells us that Meri, their entire marriage, would say one thing and do another. Say one thing and do another. Sounds a lot like the bald eagle to me. It's amazing how he can pinpoint what others do, but he seems to have a problem putting up that mirror to his own face and talking about what he does. Let's talk about what you did wrong rather than what she did wrong. He said, I never knew where she was at. But he doesn't, he's not trying to accuse her of gaslighting, though. It's just that he's been shoveled BS his whole life by her. As I said, it's what he's did to her. He gaslighted her. He even manipulated her in this whole conversation. So let's get into it. There may be some parts that I leave out. If you want to talk about it, feel free to put it down below, because the way they were going back and forth, I was not about to write all that. I'll do a say what at another time. So Meri is now moving to Utah because the bald eagle is done with her. She's like, there's no point in me being here. You said you were done. He says in confessional, well, don't blame me for not loving you. I was simply doing my duty. Blame yourself. I don't love you, okay? When I'm in love with a woman, that's her fault. So what happens when I'm not in love with a woman? Is that just my fault? If I'm mad about a woman, passionate, want to serve her, want to rub her feet, want to carry in the groceries, if I would buy her jewelry, if I want her to feel special all the time, if I'm in love with a woman, I think that that's her fault. I said, what? If I'm in love with you, that's your fault. Why are we using the word fault to describe love? What? The way that he thinks is just crazy to me. Does he really sit back and think about what he says before it comes out his mouth? Because it don't sound like it. Meri's like, all I'm doing is saying what he said. I'm not trying to blame you. This isn't a blame thing. And he's like, I didn't say it. I didn't say it was. I just said, that this should be an accountability conversation. All I said was, I didn't want to work on it. I just said I didn't want to work on it. And I said I'd fake it. I'd fake it if you needed me to. And you're over here just trying to make me own it. I just don't understand how he could sit there and talk to her like that. Like what he's saying makes sense when it doesn't. He then tells Meri that this is an argument about accountability and stuff, but we agreed to this. She said, yeah, we both had a part in it. I took whatever steps that I needed to take, and we're done. Janelle says, Meri and Cody had arguments when they were married, yes, but they were goofy together. There were moments that we all had to evolve. But the bald eagle, Meri says, does not want to admit he failed. And he doesn't. He has a struggle with that. She says, but if he didn't want to fail, maybe he shouldn't have married the wrong person. Not one, not two, but 3 times. And I say, yes, Meri, clock in. Let it be known that that's what he's saying. And all of a sudden now he did. Y'all spent all that time writing a book where you try to talk about your love just for this man to now tell all of us who bought the book and who listened to the book that you weren't in love. He then lets us know the real reason that he's over there. And it's because he's upset because the church has called him and let him know that they granted Meri her divorce on grounds of abandonment. And he doesn't like that because that's not what he did. Meri says, most people just don't like to hear what's true. Meaning, you abandoned her. This fool then says, I'm just trying to figure out, why did you move so quickly on it? In that moment, it's like Meri and I locked eyes through the television in my couch, because Meri and we were in sync at that time, because my facial expression was her facial expression. I felt my head tilt slightly to the right as hers tilted to the left, with that look of, you have some nerve. You haven't been intimate with this lady in over a decade. That wasn't a quick decision that she made. Meri's like, look, he basically can say whatever he wants to say, but this was a very long and slow and painful process. I'm going to talk about what I saw something on Reddit later on that goes to this long, drawn out and slow, painful process, because y'all played Meri, but we'll get to it. She says, I married him in 1990 because I was committed and I loved him. Then he talks about how Meri can choose, but he couldn't. And Meri's like, I'm offended by that. That's BS. Because you could have told me years ago. In other words, you could have said years ago you want out, but you didn't. Bald Eagle says, I just don't know why I'm still holding on, to this a little bit. Because I know damn well I don't want to be in this relationship. And I know damn well that I don't want to be in a relationship with Janelle. And I know that Christine did me a favor by being brave enough to leave. He is scum. And he keeps on saying and doing things that show why his kids choose to no longer associate with his narcissistic, bald-headed tail. Because you say stuff like that. Meri says, I'm not about to tell him about what I have going on. He doesn't need to know a lot. He then says that he wishes he wouldn't have married her. He married a woman that he just didn't love so much, that he wanted to serve her. And because whatever he did was never enough, this marriage was bad the entire time. He's rewriting history. I don't believe that. I think they had bad moments, but I don't think the entire time. I think when he first came on this, he did kind of seem like he liked Meri. I don't know where the switch was. I think it happened once him and the bird said I do. He knew that because he had a better relationship with Janelle, Christine, and Robin, that he shouldn't have gotten married to her and that he should have gotten out of it 25 years ago. I personally would deck him. Janelle tells us again that this isn't a man who she was married to, that she does not know who he is. He wanted her to leave sooner, but she wanted to stay. Bald Eagle didn't discard wives, he said, because if he did discard wives, then he wouldn't be able to get the approval to marry others. And he wanted to make sure that he could still marry other ladies. Another thing that's going to bite him in the butt. Because what do you mean you wanted to make sure that you can marry others? So you being able to marry others meant more than you actually loving the ones that you married? You didn't fix your problems. You just kept adding on wives. He said he didn't realize what he could have until he experienced the deep emotional intimacy instead of the F and F. I guess he's saying fight and F because it doesn't create emotional intimacy. It just creates orgasms. Okay, Cody. He then tells her again that divorce doesn't suck. Marrying the wrong person does. When he said that, I said, Cody purposely has these scenes with these ladies because he did it to Christine so that he could hurt them further. Meri says, what hurts is marrying the wrong person and not having the decency to tell her until 32 years later. He may have not came out and said it, but he showed in so many ways that he was done with Meri. But we're going to let Meri have it this time. Meri says, I'm in a peaceful place at this point, but he is being mean. And it's clear that he has a lot of internal things that he needs to work on because of how mean he's being. He then tells her, well, you know, where I'm at now is that I actually like you. I didn't like you for 6 years, but I like you now. Meri's like, it was way more than that. He's like, you know, what are we now? We could be friends. And she's like, I'm not your wife anymore. I won't be hanging out at Christmas. Bald Eagle says, you know, I have a wife, you know, Meri, and, you know, she feels like you need to come over for Christmas. He's like, but I normally just disregard her opinion. She's like, no, you don't. He says, you don't know me if you think I'm not my own man and I don't have my own mind. Meri's like, I know you're your own man, but I also know that you take other people's thoughts into consideration. Way to say it, Meri. You just taught Cody right there. Meri's like, we're exes. You don't have to worry about me. I just wish you knew how amazing of a person I really am. He says, okay. And then he tells her, bon voyage. He then tells us he wants Meri to call him if she has something fun to share. That he doesn't want any more enemies like how he has in the other wives. And that was it. All this episode did was remind me of foolishness that the bird and her husband have been trying to sell us for years. I just have one question. If you believe that the divorce for adoption was Meri's idea, raise your hand. I'll wait. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Because I never did. So I was on Reddit earlier today, and I saw this avocado at law. Attorney here with a comment on the adoption of Dayton, Aurora, and Brianna. I could not think of her name. This show has become my annoying stress reliever. I'm a family law attorney, not in Nevada, Arizona, Utah, or Wyoming. The adoption episodes didn't pass the sniff test with me. It didn't pass it with a lot of us. Some of the explanations for the divorce, natural father's consent, and references to child support didn't hold water. Then I dug into Nevada's adoption code and behold, quoted, a married person not lawfully separated from his or her spouse may not adopt a child without the consent of his or her spouse. Meaning, Meri could have filed her consent with the court and they could have adopted those kids. It didn't require for her to get divorced. And I say that because this just goes to show you how deep these feathered people's deceit is. But you all let me know what you thought of this episode. Put your comments down below. Hopefully, see, it's not doing it now that I'm looking at it. Hopefully, I get my ring light situation figured out at some point. Thank you so much for your time. Like the video. As I said earlier, it helps the channel. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're on the road to 2K, baby. Until next time.